Good Saturday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for March the 11th. Today, we're reading together in Exodus chapter 33, which is the continued fallout of the golden calf incident that we saw yesterday, reading through chapter 32. Appreciate so much you tuning in today. Let me get the text up on the screen for us so we can read it together and then work our way through the text for a few minutes this morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. Exodus chapter 33 and verse number 1. Exodus 33, verse number 1. Yahweh spoke to Moses, "Go up from here, you and the people who brought you from the land of Egypt, to the land I promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give it to your offspring. I will send an angel ahead of you, and will drive out the Canaanites, Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. Go up to a land flowing with milk and honey. But I will not go up with you, because you are a stiff-necked people. Otherwise, I might destroy you on the way." When the people heard this bad news, they mourned and didn't put on their jewelry. For Yahweh said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites, you are a stiff-necked people. If I went up with you for a single moment, I would destroy you. Now take off your jewelry, and I will decide what to do with you." So the Israelites remained stripped of their jewelry from Mount Horeb onward. Now Moses took a tent and pitched it outside the camp, at a distance from the camp. He saw it in the tent of meeting, or he called it the tent of meeting. Anyone who wanted to consult Yahweh would go to the tent of meeting that was outside the camp. Whenever Moses went out to the tent of meeting, all the people would stand up, and each one at the door of his tent, and they would watch Moses until he entered the tent. When Moses entered the tent, the pillar of cloud would come down and remain at the entrance to the tent, and Yahweh would speak with Moses. As all the people saw the pillar of cloud remaining at the entrance to the tent, they would stand up, then bow and worship, each one at the door of his tent. Yahweh would speak with Moses face to face, just as a man speaks with his friend. Then Moses would return to the camp. His assistant, the young man Joshua, son of Nun, would not leave the inside of the tent. Moses said to Yahweh, "Look, you have told me, lead this people up, but you have not let me know whom you will send with me. You said, I will know you by name, and you have also found favor with me. Now, if I have found favor with you, please teach me your ways, and I will know you, so that I may find favor with you. Now consider that this nation is your people." He, being Yahweh, replied, "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." "If your presence does not go," Moses responded to him, "don't make us go up from here. How will it be known that I and your people have found favor with you unless you go with us? I and your people will be distinguished by this from all the other people on the earth, or on the face of the earth." Yahweh answered Moses, "I will do this very thing you have asked, for you have found favor with me, and I know you by name." Then Moses said, "Please, let me see your glory." He said, "I will cause all my goodness to pass in front of you, and I will proclaim the name Yahweh before you. I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion." But he added, "You cannot see my face, for humans cannot see me and live." Yahweh said, "Here is a place near me. You are to stand on the rock. And when my glory passes by, I will put you in the crevice of the rock and cover you with my hand until I have passed by. Then I will take my hand away, and you will see my back, but my face will not be seen." And that is Exodus chapter 33. All right, thinking about this text again, I believe this text should be read in the context of this being the continued fallout of what took place with the golden calf incident. Just previously, while Moses up on the mountain receiving the instructions and the law, they produce this golden calf, they worship it, and obviously Yahweh is very upset by this, and Moses is upset by this as well, and there is punishment that is handed down to the people. But there continues to be punishment, it seems, as Yahweh makes this statement to Moses that I'm going to continue to send you all on your way to give you the land, because I made a promise. I will keep that promise, but I am not going to go with you. I've been with you all along the way up to this point. I have brought you with this great exodus out of Egypt. But from here on out, you're on your own. Here's why. Because you are a stiff-necked people. Again, there's some bovine language there tying back to the golden tent. And Yahweh says, listen, I might destroy you on the way. You might do something else stupid that really infuriates me, and I might wipe you all out there. So Yahweh tells Moses, tell them, this is the deal. You're done. You're on your own. The people take off their jewelry and they mourn because Yahweh is seemingly abandoning them here in this moment. Another sign of Yahweh distancing himself from Israel is in the fact that basically the tabernacle seems to be a no-go at this point. There's going to be no ornate, beautiful, magnificent tabernacle. Instead, there's just going to be this little tent that Moses is going to set up outside the camp. God's glory is there. The cloud, it would come down only on this tent where Moses and seemingly Joshua was as well. The people would be able to look, they would be able to see it. They might even bow down and worship, but they would not have the ability to approach this tent and to approach the presence of God. There is now a separation between them and their God. Seemingly, again, the way the structure of the text reads, this is a result of the sin of the golden calf. But concerning Moses, Yahweh still has a very strong, intimate relationship. He spoke with Moses face to face, just as a man speaks with his friend. And yet Moses here, even in this moment, realizes that things are not good. He probably understands why this is taking place, but he still doesn't understand this to be a good thing. So he goes to Yahweh in one of these conversations and he says, look, I know that you've told me to lead this people up, but what people? What people am I going to lead? What people will you send with me? Because you seemingly disconnected yourself from this people. So what people? I know that I'm special to you. I know that we have this relationship, that you know me by my name and I know you by your name. But consider this nation is also your people. Do not abandon your people. Do not let them go on their own. Because after all, this is the whole thing that separates them. Actually, before I get there, I need to look at verse 14. Yahweh replies, and he says, my presence will go with you, and I will give you rest. Is this the singular you, or is this the plural you? It seems to be the singular you, that Yahweh is just saying, nope, you're the one. I'll be with you, and that's it. Because if it is the plural you, then why does Moses continue to argue for the people? Why does he continue to argue for their special nature, in the fact that the only thing that separates us from the people of the nations, the only thing that separates us from the pagans is the fact that your presence is with us. So that leads me to believe that Yahweh responds initially by saying, nope, just you. I'm just going to be with you, and that's it. Moses then goes into arguing and says, no, you need to be with all of us. We are all your people. Being with us is the sign that we are different than everybody else. So then verse 17, Yahweh answered Moses, I will do this very thing you have asked. For you have found favor with me, and I know you by name. So again, here's Moses mediating on behalf of the people, playing a vitally important role in who they are and their relationship to the God that brought them out of Exodus, or brought them out of Egypt through the Exodus. Well, then Moses, verse 18, says, please let me see your glory. And this seems to be a sign of, please assure me of your promise. If I can see your glory, if you will show me that, then I know that what you said is so, and I can really act upon it and have great confidence in it, which is no different than what we've seen previously with Moses in his interactions with Yahweh. Yahweh's willing to give him a sign. So Yahweh says, I will cause all my goodness to pass in front of you. So the full totality of his glory. And I will proclaim the name Yahweh before you. This seems to be echo from the burning bush scene. I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. That's quoted later on in the New Testament. And I think even here, what we're not talking about an individual salvation of sorts, but God chose Israel because he could. Because in going back to Abraham, he chose Abraham because he could. He chose Moses as his leader because he could. seems to be a statement of God's sovereignty here, that at the end of the day, God will do as God wants to do. He puts Moses on a rock, and then puts him in a crevice of the rock so he can pass by, and all Moses is able to see is his back, not his face, just his back. Why? This, going back to verse number 20, you cannot see my face, seemingly a way to say you cannot see my full glory, because anyone who sees it will die. So you could see my back, but not my face. All throughout this text, I think in chapter 32 and also here in chapter 33, the word I tried to pronounce yesterday, I wrote it down this time to make sure I could pronounce it correctly. Anthropomorphism. Now here we go. Anthropomorphism. There we go. Anthropomorphism. This is where God, this supernatural being, the great creator, is put into human terms to help us understand who he is, just as he seems to take on some human characteristics in chapter 32 to help with our understanding, him relenting from that earlier on, his in a sense lack of certainty of if the people will be able to stand before him or if he'll just kill them along the way. Here he's given the language of a face and a body and a back and walking and such. I do think this is given just to help us to understand kind of what's going on, to give us an idea, and maybe even in the moment to give Moses kind of some sort of idea of or his brain at least having the ability to comprehend Yahweh in some form or fashion. So here we have Yahweh helping us to understand as best we can. Certainly there's so much, 99% of Yahweh we cannot understand. Our brains just can't function like that. But he shows us grace and love by sometimes condescending himself so that we can understand him in various ways, and so that we can have a better ability to relate to him. This does not neglect his glory. This does not neglect his sovereignty. This does not neglect his superiority over us in every single way, but it's simply a grace to help us understand Yahweh in various ways. And I think he does that for Moses here. He affirms what he says to Moses here by allowing Moses to see this small glimpse of his glory, even if it is just his back. I appreciate so much you tuning into this reading as we look at the continued fallout from the golden calf incident. Yahweh has separated himself from the people. He's distanced himself from the people. Yet here is Moses mediating for Israel, reminding God of his promises and doing what he can to be this great leader for Israel and to help them to find their proper place before Yahweh as his special people. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hope this has been a good reading for you to start off this Saturday. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know, and we'll be back at it again tomorrow, reading together from Exodus chapter 34, where we're going to see some new stone tablets. Covenant obligations are going to be reaffirmed, and also we're going to see Moses's radiant face. You've heard me say before, we cannot be truly in God's presence. We cannot have a relationship with Jesus in a true sense and not be changed. Here's a very visible reality of that for Moses. Being in God's presence causes him to be changed, and people take strong notice of that. Hope you can join in tomorrow as we read that together. Take care, and God bless.